Hey guys! So, in this video we are going to talk about size. What size is that? Well, unfortunately it's just about story size, so let's get into it. So, the other day my coworker and we were just kind of talking. It was the end of the day. I felt pretty good about myself. I had started working and completed, or rather progressed, three stories to the reviewing stage of my work process. So for the juniors out there, that basically just means that I've written all the code and it's working and I've verified it myself, and now my code is up for review so that my coworkers have the chance of giving me some feedback if they want me to change something or if something could be improved, or spot potential issues. And so I was just talking to my coworker, and I mentioned that today I feel fairly good about myself. I mean, they're not big stories, but I finished three stories today. And then he kind of went, "Oh damn, I feel so unproductive. I've just worked on this one story and I'm not done with it, and it feels like it hasn't been a great day for me." And so I looked at him and I said, "But dude, you're working on migrating and generalizing the entire application to an international product. The three stories that I worked on are much smaller than that." And he says, "Well, yeah, but still it feels kind of shitty. Like I like to close stories, right?" And you see, guys, this is touching on the trickiest part when it comes to software development. And this is why I argue that at the end of the day, it is all but impossible to accurately estimate or measure how productive somebody is. The reason why it's almost impossible is because it is impossible to determine the complexity of a task. This is why in my interview videos that I've made, you may have seen or not, I just go for open questions. Some people will tell me, "Oh, these questions seems very easy," and I go, "Yeah, they're designed to be easy to answer, but they're also designed to figure out how good you are at what you do." Because the fact of the matter is that it is almost impossible to determine how good you are based on just a code test or just a challenge that you provide somebody. In the context of in this example where me and my coworker is working, the perception from his side was that he felt unproductive because he didn't close as many stories. And trust me when I say this is very common, guys. You have no idea how many times I've been in a situation where my boss and this is usually more inexperienced IT people, because unfortunately not everybody who is in a management position in IT has the sort of insight that is required to understand what it means to be productive. Where I've had bosses who just they focus on amount of work produced, and if you produce a lot of code or you produce a lot of features or you close a lot of stories, they're very happy with you. If you don't, you just close a few, they're very unhappy. But what's lacking here is an understanding of the complexity of the task itself. I mean, I'll give you a great example. Whenever we present, because what we usually do is that each week we have a small presentation on, the stuff that we're working on right now. If we produce for that demo, a bunch of features that has a graphical interface where users, our stakeholders, can see that, all right, there's some buttons they can click, they can kind of do some stuff with our admin tools or something of that nature, they are usually very happy. They can kind of feel that, wow, this was a lot of value for the company. But whenever we talk about the subscription matching algorithm, which is one of the core features of the product, where we have an algorithm that figures out if something is a subscription or if it's not a subscription, they kind of just nod and say, wow, okay, cool, that's awesome. This is the heart of the business, guys. For my company, this is like the entire structure is built on that thing. If we pulled that feature out from our stack or from the product, if that doesn't work, the company goes under. Yet it is perceived as less valuable because the amount of work that goes in and the code that comes out is like the ratio is completely off. We can literally spend several weeks working on just slightly improving some aspect of this algorithm. And that's exactly what I'm going for here. I'm trying to explain to you that the warped idea that some people have in their head is that the amount of work, the amount of the lines of code that you produce is the indicator that you should use in order to determine how effective somebody is at their job in software development. And that is false. It is completely false. Because at the end of the day, you have to realize that every problem has different levels of complexity. Great example is the worst thing that happens, absolutely, I would say, is when the amount of code that you write is so vastly disproportionate from the amount of time you had to invest to write that thing. Just the other day I made a video where I spent, me and my coworker, I think we spent 2 hours on 2 lines of code. And I've seen worse. I've been in situations where I've been stuck on a really small nothing problem. It's I just can't figure out what my compiler is complaining at me, yelling, and I can't really figure out why. And I'm stuck for a full day or 2 days. As soon as I fix it, I can move on with my day. That's several hours, like several work days worth of wasted work. And then you have other situations where, this is a great one, where a configuration file takes one of my coworkers a week to get right. Why would a configuration file take that long? Well, my friend, because this person is one of our operations people, and his job is to migrate our infrastructure setup to something that will support multiple markets. It's something that is extremely business critical. I mean, I only remember the time when we migrated everything over to HTTPS and using SSL and so forth. When that happened, I mean, we had, in that 1 month that he was working on this, we had several issues in production. We had to roll back, we had to do all this stuff. He had to do tons and tons and tons of research, probably days worth of work, just to get the configurations correct. So if you took all that stuff that was produced, quote unquote, the amount of lines of code produced, put that in front of somebody and said, this took 2 weeks. Without understanding this sort of concept, you would think, especially if you're the guy who has the money, or the girl, you would go kind of, yeah, this was not really worth it. It doesn't feel that way. It doesn't seem that the time invested stands in proportion to the task at hand. So this is what I want to tell you guys, so you can become one of those people who understands that the complexity of the task is the thing that is important. If you don't understand that building a graphical interface will, although produce more code and more visual value, is not even in the same realm of complexity as producing, as I said, a 1% increase on a matching algorithm that basically uses that is in essence an AI system that tries to figure out this sort of thing. That's what I'm saying. Like the sensation of value is we humans do this, and I don't know why. I mean, even my coworker, he did it. They have this. You get this idea that the amount of stuff that you ship is the thing that is important, but it's not. You have to always remember that the task at hand and how difficult it is the determining factor. Think of it as going to the gym. If you tell me that you did 100 reps, I would kind of go, yeah, but how much weight did you use? That's a natural follow-up question, how much weight? And if you say you used a kilo, that's not very impressive. But if you say that you used 100 kilos, now that's pretty impressive. I would even argue to say, if you said, I did 2 reps, I did 3 reps with 500 kilos, Now that is really impressive, and that's exactly what this is. The amount of complexity and resistance that you face on each task should be the thing that determines how much value you have produced, not how much stuff that you can produce. Have a great day.